Hey guys, so the Game Awards, am I right? The list of TGA 2024 nominees was announced just last week, and I'm not the first to say that it's a little peculiar. I mean, sure, there are some good games on this list, but it feels a little weird to me. I mean, Shadow of the Erdtree gets its own slot, and how many remakes is too many? Anyway, since the project that was scheduled to be my November video is taking a little longer than I thought, not to mention the fact that I just moved, I thought that today we'd take it easy and talk about the Game Awards. We're gonna look into the crystal ball and see if we can't divine the winners for the year, while also spreading around my thoughts a little bit here and there. So, hi, I'm Volcaronite, and today we're predicting the Game Awards 2024's winners. Alright, I think we'll just work our way down the list of categories here. I don't have a lot to say on some of them, so let's start with the big one, Game of the Year. This category features the nominees of Astrobot, Balatro, Black Myth Wukong, Shadow of the Erdtree, Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, and Metaphor ReFantazio. Of these, the only one I don't know much about is Balatro. It looks like an excellent game, and I'm really looking forward to playing it at some point, but I haven't yet. Besides, Game of the Year isn't really a category that indie games can win at TGA, unfortunately. So, to my eye, the big contenders are Final Fantasy VII Rebirth and Metaphor ReFantazio. Astrobot is cute, but it's really rare that a game as cutesy and family-friendly as this can win GOTY. In fact, the only other game that comes close was 2021's It Takes Two, which was a really surprising choice. It's not guaranteed to lose, but my gut says no. Black Myth Wukong also looks really good, and it's on my shortlist to play, but I just don't think that it was big enough to win. Most GOTY winners make a big splash when they launch. It's arguably more important than being the best game on the list, and I don't think that Black Myth Wukong got that. Finally, Shadow of the Erdtree is not a game, it's DLC. It's a big DLC, it was pretty good, but I think that giving Game of the Year to the DLC of a game that has already won Game of the Year would be incredibly cynical. I mean, why isn't Stardew Valley 1.6 on the list? That was a really good update. I know that there have been DLCs in the awards before, like when The Witcher 3's Blood and Wine won Best RPG in 2016, but that doesn't make it any less lame. I think Metaphor ReFantazio is the objectively best game on the list, and it's the one I think should win. It's not my favorite game of the six, that'd be Astrobot, which isn't my favorite game of the year, but it's my favorite of the nominations. But given TGA's track record, I think that Metaphor ReFantazio is the best candidate. But if I'm betting money on what's going to win, I think Final Fantasy VII Rebirth will take the title. TGA loves an established IP for GOTY, so I think this is where it'll go. It's got very cutting-edge graphics, it's a remake sequel to a remake of a sequel, it's my best guess. Next up, we have the category of Game Direction, which used to be called Developer of the Year, so I think that's how I'm going to look at it. It's the same 6 games as GOTY, but I do think this award will go to Metaphor ReFantazio. I think that as a new IP from the group that made the Persona and Shin Megami Tensei games, it's got just enough creativity and known quantity status to win this one. Next, we have the Best Narrative. This one's only got 5 contenders, Final Fantasy VII Rebirth and Metaphor ReFantazio, along with Like a Dragon Infinite Wealth, Hellblade 2, and Silent Hill 2. I don't know much about either Like a Dragon Infinite Wealth or Hellblade 2, so I can't speak with as much certainty on this category, but I do think that this is going to go to one of the 2 GOTY contenders. This award tends to go to a game separate from GOTY, just looking at historical winners, so I think this will go to Metaphor ReFantazio too. People are in love with the story of that game, and I think it's well deserved here. Best Art Direction is next, and we have 4 GOTY contenders here, Astrobot, Black Myth Wukong, Shadow of the Erdtree, and Metaphor ReFantazio, as well as the indie game Neva. Neva is the second game by Nomada Studios after Grizz or Gree, and both are very atmospheric, watercolor, light Metroidvania games. As a fun fact about me, Gree makes the list for my top 10 least favorite games of all time, so I don't plan on playing Neva. It does look very pretty though, so I do think it has a real shot at this category. But paying the bookie, I'm gonna say Shadow of the Erdtree will win this one. TGA likes to give this award to games that look great but have a little bit of unique twist without going too far off the rails. I think that Astrobot and Metaphor ReFantazio are a little too stylized for this one, though Cuphead won in 2017, so what do I know? But I also think that Black Myth Wukong is a little bit too generic in art direction for this. Neva is very pretty, but it also feels a little too stylized and not intensive enough. So I'd say that this is probably a lock for Shadow of the Erdtree. Next, we have our 2 audio awards, Best Score and Best Audio Design. I used to be a little confused as to why these were two separate categories, but looking at these two lists, it makes sense. I think Silent Hill 2 will win audio design. Its score isn't exactly one that I'd pull up to listen to casually, but it's a very compelling horror game, and I think that the sound design is a big part of that. Meanwhile, I do think Metaphor ReFantazio will win Best Score. It's a tight race though, since Stellar Blade also has a stellar soundtrack. I personally prefer Stellar Blade's soundtrack. You're listening to it right now, after all. But it's a little bit more experimental and wacky than I think TGA likes, so I think it'll lose out to Metaphor ReFantazio. I'm going to skip down the list since there's some categories that I can't really speak on since I don't know much about any of them. Best Performance, Accessibility, Game for Impact, these are categories that I just don't know about. I'm interested in seeing what wins Game for Impact, but I don't even know what it's measuring for, so we'll see. For Ongoing Game, I don't see a world where it's not given to Destiny 2 or Fortnite. My personal prediction is Fortnite, as a huge free game that's only gotten bigger, something that infamously cannot be said about Destiny 2. Meanwhile, for Best Community Support, I'm gonna go out on a limb and say No Man's Sky will take this one. Hello Games really stepped up their game since release, turning one of the most notorious flops in gaming into an enormous, genuinely excellent experience. I could see Baldur's Gate 3 or Fortnite winning this one too, but I'm gonna stick with my gut here. Up next is Best Indie Game, and with all the hype around its many nominations, I don't see how this won't go to Balatro. Again, I haven't played it yet, so I can't personally say whether it deserves the title. On this list though, my personal favorite is Animal Well. It's also super fascinating to see Lorelei and the Laser Eyes on this list, but Balatro has to win something big, and I think this is it. Balatro might also win Best Debut Indie Game, but I think it's more likely that Animal Well will win this one. I mean, technically, if both games are in both categories, the same one should win both, since if the Best Indie Game is also a debut indie game, it is also the best in that category. But for whatever reason, I think that these awards will be split between the two games, and I think that Animal Well will win Best Debut Indie Game. Pokemon TCG Pocket is the only mobile game that I've played on this list, but hello again Balatro. I don't know how to judge this category honestly, with Balatro being available. Balatro is certainly the best game on the list, but I don't think it will win this category. I'm not sure what will, to be honest. If Pokemon TCG Pocket wins, I'll know that this category is just plain weird. I'm gonna skip VR games since I don't have any VR and jump to Best Action Game. I do think that Black Myth Wukong will win this category, though again, I think Stellar Blade is nipping at its heels. Stellar Blade got a lot of the wrong kind of press coverage, so I'm not exactly sure how we'll see it represented at TGA this year. I do think it's the best action game of the year. However, based on my predictions alone, I think that it'll be Black Myth Wukong that wins Best Action Game. Then, for the alarmingly separate category of Best Action Adventure, I see this one going to Star Wars Outlaws. Star Wars is too big not to pick up this category, and though I think Astrobot is the best game on this list, followed by Echoes of Wisdom, this award is almost certainly going to go to Star Wars Outlaws. It's hilarious to see Dragon's Dogma 2 and Shadow of the Erdtree in Best RPG category, since I don't really think they're great examples of typical RPG gameplay. In fact, the only one of these games that I think truly qualifies as an RPG over an action game is Metaphor ReFantazio, which I believe will win the award. I don't know for sure since TGA obviously uses a different definition of RPG than most gamers are familiar with, but I don't see how this award could reasonably go to any other game. I am gonna skip Best Fighting and Best Sim Strategy games since these aren't games that I'm familiar with, and go straight to Best Family Game. This is often a category dominated by Nintendo games, and if any of the 3 Nintendo games here are going to win, I'd say that it would be Echoes of Wisdom, but I actually believe that none of them will win, and the award will go to Astrobot. It was such a phenomenal game with fun gameplay and a lot of charm. That's also true of Echoes of Wisdom, but I think the slightly faster pace of Astrobot will win it this award. Best Adaptation is a cool category here, even though it's not an exceptionally difficult prediction. The Tomb Raider show saw lukewarm reception, as did the Yakuza show. Knuckles is probably the best Sonic adaptation to date, but you know, it's Sonic, the bar is pretty low. I know Arcane reviewed really well, and a lot of people loved it, but this award is going to Fallout. Fallout was a phenomenon when it released, and I don't really see a world where it loses. I'm skipping through the esports and creator categories since I wasn't nominated. I guess they wanted it to be a fair chance and I would have just swept. Oh well. Finally, for this video, the most anticipated game award is also a pretty obvious one. Even though it's the game on this list that I personally care about the least, there is absolutely no way that Grand Theft Auto 6 loses. Every game on this list is a sequel, which is kind of boring, but I guess a lot of the things that we're waiting for in 2025 are more nebulous at this point. On this list, I am much more excited for Metroid Prime 4 than anything else, but looking at the industry more broadly, it's got to be GTA 6. Alright, I think I'll wrap it up there. I'm perfectly prescient, of course, so anything that I get wrong on this list was actually a clever ruse made to trick you. I can't have the authorities hunting me down for my predictive power after all, so that explains everything I got wrong. Yes sirree. But thank you for watching this rather unusual video for me. If you liked it, please be sure to hit the like button and subscribe to the channel for more videos. I'll have my own favorite games of the year list coming out in December, as well as the project I'm working on now. Get subscribed so you don't miss them. But that's all I've got for you today, so enjoy your day and take care.